There comes a point in every person's life when things fall apart. It may be your career, your health, your relationships, or your sense of purpose. Everything you thought was solid begins to crack. The people you trusted may walk away. The future you dreamed of may evaporate. And in that moment you'll realize something terrifying, but ultimately liberating. No one is coming to save you, not your friends, not your parents, not your mentors. Not some miracle waiting around the corner. This is your life, and the responsibility to rebuild it rests entirely on your shoulders. The harsh truth is, no one is coming to rescue you. This is not meant to be cruel, it's meant to wake you up. From the moment we are born, we are conditioned to believe that someone will step in when things go wrong. As children, it was our parents. As students, it was our teachers. As employees, we often look to our bosses or systems to provide safety nets. But when life hits you with something real, when everything starts to fall apart, those safety nets dissolve, suddenly you're alone in the wreckage, and the silence around you is louder than anything you've ever heard. That silence is the moment of truth. It's the moment where some people break and others begin. The world doesn't owe you comfort. It doesn't guarantee support. The idea that someone will come and pick you up, solve your problems, or make things better just because you're struggling, that's a lie we often tell ourselves to delay the inevitable, because the truth is harder to accept. The truth is that if your life is falling apart, you're the only one who can put it back together. That realization can feel cold and unforgiving, but it's also powerful. It puts the control back into your hands. It removes the illusion that someone else holds the key to your future. Most people spend their lives waiting for the right person to understand them, waiting for the right job to appreciate them, waiting for the right time to feel ready. But time doesn't wait for anyone, and while you're waiting, life keeps moving forward without you. The gap between where you are and where you want to be only widens. At some point, you either build the bridge yourself or you stay stuck on the wrong side, blaming everything and everyone except the one person who can change it, you. What makes this truth so difficult is that it challenges the part of us that craves comfort. We don't want to believe we're alone in this. We want someone to carry some of the weight. And while others may support you, offer words, lend a hand, or walk beside you for a while, no one will do the real work for you. No one is coming to fix your life because no one else is living it. Your pain, your story, your fight. It's yours and yours alone. It's personal, and so is the path forward. This isn't about becoming bitter or detached from the world. It's about becoming self-reliant. It's about understanding that real transformation comes from within. There is strength in recognizing your solitude not as a curse, but as a call to action. The people who thrive in life aren't necessarily the smartest or the most talented. They're the ones who stopped waiting. They're the ones who looked around, saw no help coming, and decided to become their own rescue. The world respects action. It responds to those who move, even if they're afraid. And that first step, no matter how shaky, is what separates the ones who rebuild from the ones who remain broken. The key is to stop imagining a hero who will arrive at the last moment to lift you up. That hero doesn't exist out there. That hero is already inside you, waiting to be awakened by decision, discipline, and effort. When you accept this, everything changes. The anger, the blame, the self-pity, they lose their power. Because you're no longer looking out the window for a savior. You're looking in the mirror and seeing the beginning of a different kind of story. Every collapse is a hidden opportunity to reinvent yourself. On the surface, failure looks like the end of the road. It feels like something has been taken from you. Your momentum, your stability, your confidence. When the systems you built start crumbling, when your plans unravel, and when the people around you pull away, it's natural to feel like everything has come undone. But buried inside that wreckage is a rare chance, a raw moment where you're no longer bound by what you were. The identity you clung to has been stripped away, and while that can be terrifying, it's also incredibly freeing, because now you're no longer performing for the expectations you once tried to fulfill. Now you have space to ask a more important question. Who do you truly want to become? Most people avoid collapse at all costs. They fear it, they fight it, but in doing so, They miss the clarity it brings. When everything falls apart, what remains is what really matters. The distractions disappear. The roles you played, the masks you wore, the ideas that weren't really yours. They burn away in the fire of failure. What's left is truth. And truth is the foundation you need if you're serious about building something real. Reinvention doesn't happen in moments of comfort. It happens in moments of absolute clarity, when you are forced to confront the parts of your life that were built on illusion. If you can lean into the collapse instead of running from it, you'll see things most people never see. You'll start noticing how much of your past was based on fitting in, keeping up, or living someone else's version of success. You'll see the parts of your identity that were shaped by fear rather than by desire. And suddenly, you're not rebuilding the same thing you lost. You're building something new, something aligned, something that reflects the person you've become through the process of falling. Collapse is an invitation to rethink everything. Your values, your priorities, your habits, your relationships. It allows you to ask hard questions without the noise of routine to distract you. Who are you when no one is watching? What are you chasing and why? What do you believe in when everything comfortable is gone? These questions are painful, but they're also necessary. Because without them, you'll spend your life climbing ladders that are leaning against the wrong walls. There's a kind of power that comes from being broken open. It strips away the ego, humbles your mind, and forces you to build with intention. No more coasting, no more pretending, no more hoping things will fix themselves. Reinvention begins the moment you stop mourning the past and start engaging with the future. Not the future you once imagined, but the one you now have the wisdom to design. People will tell you to bounce back, to get back on track. But sometimes the track you were on was leading you in the wrong direction. Sometimes collapse is the course correction. Sometimes losing it all is what reveals what's worth fighting for. Reinvention is not about returning to who you were. It's about constructing who you were always meant to be, now that you've seen the truth of who you are without all the noise. This moment you're in, this space between what was and what could be, is not a void. It's a crucible. It's where identity is forged, where strength is discovered, and where vision is born. It's not about rushing to fill the space. It's about listening. It's about observing. It's about trusting that the breakdown is not the end of your story, but the opening of a new chapter with fewer illusions and more clarity than you've ever had before. You must confront your weaknesses with radical honesty. It's easy to chase goals, set ambitions, and talk about growth when things are going well. But the real transformation begins when you strip away the noise and take a hard look at who you actually are. Not who you appear to be, not who others believe you are, but the raw, unfiltered version of you. The one that shows up when you're exhausted, when things fall apart, when no one is watching. That version holds the truth, and until you face it, nothing in your life will fundamentally change. We live in a world that teaches us to hide our flaws. We learn to edit, filter, and project strength even when we're broken inside. We're told to stay positive, to stay confident, to stay composed. But real growth doesn't come from pretending to be invincible. It comes from recognizing your blind spots, your patterns, your self-sabotaging tendencies, and bringing them into the light. Most people avoid this confrontation because it's uncomfortable. It forces you to admit that maybe the reason you're stuck isn't because the world is unfair, or people are against you, but because there are things within you that you've refused to deal with. Weakness is not the enemy. Denial is. As long as you keep running from your own limitations, they will control you. You will make decisions based on fear instead of strength. You will repeat old habits that lead to the same dead ends. And you'll convince yourself that this is just the way things are, when in fact, it's the way you've chosen to stay. The only way to reclaim your power is to be brutally honest with yourself. What are you afraid of facing? What truths have you buried beneath excuses? What habits are quietly destroying your momentum? This kind of honesty isn't about tearing yourself down. It's about creating a clear foundation. When you know what's holding you back, you can do something about it. You can redesign your routines. You can shift your mindset. You can rebuild yourself from a place of awareness, not illusion. But none of that can happen if you keep lying to yourself about where you actually stand. Start by observing your reactions. The way you respond to failure, the way you speak about others, the way you speak to yourself. These small moments reveal everything. Do you shut down at the first sign of pressure? Do you blame others for your choices? Do you wait for motivation instead of building discipline? These aren't flaws to be ashamed of. They are signals, and the sooner you pay attention to them, the sooner you can evolve. You have to get comfortable with discomfort. You have to be willing to sit in the silence and ask yourself hard questions. Why do you procrastinate? Why do you stay in situations that no longer serve you? Why do you cling to identities that keep you small? Every time you answer with honesty, you remove another layer of the false self. Every time you lean into the discomfort instead of avoiding it, you take back a piece of your potential. People often look for hacks, shortcuts, and easy wins. But the real shift happens when you stop looking outward and start working inward. The battle isn't out there, it's within. And if you can win that battle, if you can face your own reflection without flinching, you unlock something most people never find: self-respect built from truth, not ego. This process is not glamorous. It won't get applause, it won't be visible to others, but it's the only way to become unshakable. Because once you've faced your darkness, once you've named it, understood it, and started to master it, the world outside loses its power to control you. Don't wait for permission. Begin rebuilding now. Too many people spend their lives on pause, waiting for the green light to move forward. They wait for the right time, the right conditions, the right words of encouragement. They wait until they feel ready, until they feel certain, until the fear disappears. But life doesn't reward hesitation. It doesn't wait for you to catch up. While you stall, time moves on, opportunities fade, and the distance between who you are and who you could become widens into something unrecognizable. There is no perfect moment. There is no magical signal. There is no committee that will suddenly appear and announce that you're allowed to try again. The idea that someone will tap you on the shoulder and tell you it's your time is comforting, but false. The world doesn't grant permission slips to rebuild. That permission must come from within. You either take control of your life now, or you watch as it continues to slip through your fingers. It's easy to wait when you've convinced yourself that circumstances need to align, that you need more money, more knowledge, more support. But those are just delays in disguise. They're fears wearing masks of logic, because deep down, the real reason we wait is because starting again feels vulnerable. Rebuilding means admitting something broke. It means you weren't who you wanted to be, and facing that truth is uncomfortable. But you don't grow by avoiding discomfort. You grow by walking straight into it. The longer you delay, the more you normalize inaction. It becomes your default state. You tell yourself stories that justify your inaction, stories that sound reasonable but are quietly corrosive. You convince yourself that things will somehow resolve on their own, that you'll just know when it's time. But there is no thunderclap moment of certainty. There is only now, and what you choose to do with it. You must train yourself to move without approval, to act without applause, to take the first step before you know what step 2 looks like. This is how momentum is built, not through massive breakthroughs, but through small, deliberate actions taken despite uncertainty. And once you start, you begin to remember what it feels like to be in motion. You begin to see that rebuilding isn't a single decision. It's a daily commitment. Rebuilding your life, your mindset, your direction doesn't require a grand plan. It requires a shift in posture, a decision to stop stalling and start creating. Even if you're unsure, even if it's messy, even if no one believes in you yet, the people who make things happen in this world are rarely the ones with all the answers. They're the ones who move first, learn along the way, and trust themselves enough to keep going. There's something powerful about refusing to wait. It signals to yourself that you are responsible, capable, and willing. That you no longer see yourself as a victim of your circumstances, but as the builder of your future. This mindset shift changes everything. It allows you to act instead of overthink, to build instead of blame, to push forward even when the path is unclear. You don't need permission to heal. You don't need permission to change your environment, to outgrow your circle, to outwork your past. You don't need permission to be different from who you were. And the moment you stop asking for it, everything begins to shift. Because you're no longer waiting for the world to choose you. You're choosing yourself. And that choice becomes the foundation of your rebuild. Silently craft your comeback, while the world watches for your failure. There's something powerful about moving in silence, about rebuilding without announcing every step, without broadcasting every intention. In a world obsessed with visibility, with likes, shares, and attention, real transformation often happens in the quiet. The loudest voices are rarely the ones doing the deepest work. The real work, the hard, painful, necessary work of growth, happens when no one is watching, when no one is cheering, and when no one even believes you're capable of rising again. People will doubt you. They'll measure you based on your past. They'll remind you of your failures, of your setbacks, of the moments you fell short. The world is quick to place people in boxes, to define them by what went wrong. But you don't owe them an explanation. You don't need to defend your journey. Your energy is better spent building, not convincing, not proving, not arguing. Just building. When you try to convince people you're changing, you waste time trying to earn validation instead of investing that time into transformation. That validation, if it comes, will never be enough. It will keep you chasing, adjusting, editing yourself to meet someone else's expectations. But when you move in silence, you remove that pressure. You free yourself from the need to be seen before you're ready. You give yourself the space to fail, to learn, to rebuild. Without the noise of judgment clouding your focus, the most powerful comebacks are not built in public. They are crafted in private moments of decision. In early mornings and late nights, in quiet resolve and consistent effort, while the world expects you to stay broken, you're laying bricks, one by one, quietly, intentionally, with discipline that doesn't need to be posted, with growth that doesn't need to be announced. Because when you're serious about rising, attention becomes a distraction, not a goal. The silence allows you to hear yourself again, to reconnect with what matters, to separate your desires from your doubts. It gives you clarity, it gives you control, and it gives you peace, because not everything powerful has to be loud. Not every victory needs a stage. Sometimes the most meaningful wins happen in solitude, when no one else understands what you're doing. But you do. There will always be people who doubt your ability to come back. Let them talk, let them assume, let them misjudge. Their expectations are not your responsibility. What they think of your past has nothing to do with your future. Use their doubt as fuel, not as direction. Let their disbelief echo in the background while you stay locked in on your rebuild. Their strength in restraint, in not needing to share every move, in knowing that your results will speak for themselves when the time is right, because eventually they will. The work done in the dark doesn't stay hidden forever. It creates a shift, a transformation so undeniable that even the loudest critics are forced into silence, not because you silenced them, but because your growth did focus on the work, on the tiny details, on the boring, repetitive, uncomfortable process that no one else wants to do. That's where the difference is made. Not in grand gestures or flashy announcements, but in the discipline to keep going when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, when no one believes in the comeback. But you are not obligated to let the world in while you're under construction. You are allowed to rebuild in peace, to become stronger in silence, and to emerge on your own terms. Because when the world finally sees what you've become, they won't remember what they said about you. They'll only remember that you came back when no one expected you to. The power to change your life has always been within you. It's easy to forget that when you're surrounded by noise, by opinions, by distractions, by the weight of what the world expects from you. It's easy to hand over control, to believe that your circumstances are fixed, that your past defines your future, that the path you're on is the only one available. But none of that is true. At any moment, You have the ability to change direction. You have the authority to take ownership, to let go of what no longer serves you, and to begin shaping a life that aligns with who you really are. Most people never tap into that power because they've been trained to look outward. They look to others for answers, for guidance, for approval. They seek external validation to confirm internal worth. But the moment you realize that no one knows your path better than you do, something shifts. You stop asking for permission. You stop waiting for someone to choose you. You begin to understand that the blueprint for your future has always been within reach. It just required belief and the courage to act on it. It's not about being fearless. It's about being honest. Honest about the choices you've made, the habits you've adopted, the stories you've told yourself to avoid responsibility. Real change begins with radical self-awareness. When you stop blaming the outside world, you start gaining power. Because as long as it's someone else's fault, it's someone else's job to fix it. But once you own it, once you say, "This is mine to change," you become unstoppable. That power within you doesn't shout. It doesn't announce itself. It whispers in moments of stillness. It shows up when you're exhausted but choose to keep going anyway. It reveals itself when you fail, when you fall, and still decide to rise. It doesn't need recognition. It doesn't need applause. All it needs is for you to stop doubting, stop hesitating, and start trusting that you already have everything it takes to turn your life around. Your environment may be difficult. Your past may be heavy. Your resources may be limited. But none of that defines your capacity. People have risen from less. People have rebuilt from ruins. Not because they were given the perfect conditions, but because they made a decision to no longer let their circumstances dictate their identity. That same decision is available to you at any time. But it starts when you stop outsourcing your power to other people's expectations. You don't need a title to be a leader in your own life. You don't need an audience to begin performing at your highest level. You don't need a breakthrough moment to justify starting over. The power to change your story exists in every small decision you make, in what you tolerate, in what you prioritize, in how you speak to yourself when no one else is listening. That's where the real shift happens, not in grand gestures, but in quiet daily commitments to become something more. The mind will always look for reasons to stay where it's comfortable. It will whisper doubt, amplify fear, and cling to patterns that feel familiar. But comfort doesn't build anything. Growth lives in the uncomfortable, the uncertain, the unfamiliar. And the only way to claim that growth is by choosing it again and again, until it becomes your new foundation. You don't need to wait for motivation. You need to move with intention. Because once you act from the understanding that you already have the power, everything changes. Every time you choose to rise instead of retreat, to act instead of complain, to build instead of blame, you prove to yourself that you are not stuck. You are not broken. You are not finished. You are simply waking up to the truth that you've always carried the solution with you, long before the world ever saw it.